Finally, before I let you, so that I can conclude with Mr. Afetuan Yeboah, the president's statement also touched on a very important national matter, the issue of illegal mining or Galamsey, and that's another subject I'll be moving on very soon. Beyond making the call for government efforts to end it, what more is the GBA seeking to do in this particular very important area of our life?
I think that, to be blunt, we are just a bunch of indisciplined people. Why can't we manage resources that God has given us free of charge? We keep borrowing. Must we mine all the minerals today? What is wrong? What is difficult about repealing an airline that permits people to mine in the forest reserve? Don't we appreciate and understand the concept of forest reserve? So I think that there's lack of political will. I am convinced that no government can fight this battle unless the citizenry rise up to protect the environment of this country. That is my conviction as a person. Because since 2015 that I have been on the executive committee of the Ghana Bar Association under the presidency of President Benson Chupri, we have raised these matters, we have issued statements, even during Yaboafo's tenure, which was for the last 3 years. Right. Every year, this was said. What else do we need? We have the military, the security agencies under the president. What is difficult about it? I think that we should be serious about it. We should be disciplined enough. We are not thinking about the future. And I urge the youth to be involved in this matter because it's about us. It's not about the old people who are governing us.
Right. Xavier Kuji is a public relations officer with the Ghana Bar Association. Thank you so much. Let me end this conversation with the former Deputy Attorney General, Afetuan Yeboah. Mr. Yeboah, so what do we expect of the leadership of the GBA? Now that they find themselves in an era where every step they take will be viewed with some sort of suspicion, especially from government.
Now, before I even answer this, the issue about interference,
right,
or the issue of sovereignty, I'm surprised that the learned AG raised this particular issue, because I know that the AG knows that the GBA is an association that has international partners, as the PRO just said. But aside that, look at the situation where Ghana is a part of a community of nations, for example, the UN, ECOWAS, and an issue comes up, Ghana issues a statement. Does it make a theory that state affairs, political affairs? Not language. Israel attacked. What do we do? The foreign ministry issued a statement condemning his agency that now have to take the account. The government of Ghana not issued a statement, so the AG would not shot himself in the foot because Common or the association, Common Lawyers Association, they have the right to issue a statement on an issue pertaining in any Commonwealth country. As to whether you may take it or not take it, that's another matter. They cannot force you. But the matter of the issue statement is something so common, so normal. So I was surprised when the AG went on that tangent. Now, with respect to going forward, the GBA is an association of lawyers. The GBA has stood the test of time. The GBA has stood the test of military tyranny and rule in Ghana. The GBA should continue to stand as a united force, even if people deem their actions as being political. It is only those who cannot take criticism who may want to take the GBA to the cleanest. I expect the president and the executives of the GBA to remain focused and deliver their mandate as executives and lead the GBA to where it ought to be. Politicians may want to pass their comments. They should leave the politicians and then focus on the well-being of Ghanaians. If we were to leave the space to the ruling class, a lot of things will happen and everyone will be quiet. Ghana is not a state that's prepared to let people do things without comments. The GBA should continue with the comments after when they deem necessary. As I said, during our time, they came at us with their statements, with their comments. They must keep the fire. We were so tolerant. We accepted the criticism. This government also must be prepared to accept any statement from the GBA.
All right, Mr. Afetuan Yeboah is a former Deputy Attorney General, and earlier on you heard the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Bar Association, Xavier Kuji. Of course, we'll be talking about the Ghana Bar Association ongoing annual conference in the Upper West Regional Capital, WA, and some comments came from the Attorney General and the GBA President. What do you make of this? Your comments are welcome, and I'll share with them as and when we have them. But related to this is a matter of public interest. Now, the coalition against Galamsey, or illegal mining in Ghana, they've intensified pressure on President Mahama, urging him to immediately declare a state of emergency in areas devastated by illegal mining. The group says the president's recent remarks on the matter fell short of the agency required, describing his response as deeply disappointing in the face of an escalating national crisis. Now, convener of the group, Ken Ashibe, said the destruction of rivers, forests, and farmlands by illegal mining has crossed the threshold of what the Constitution defines as an emergency.
We are beyond the last resort. And His Excellency, Mr. President, please, you should immediately declare a state of emergency. And again, we are very clear about it, in parts of the country, not in all of the country, not in the entire district, but in parts of the country that are required to save Ghanaians as prescribed by the Constitution. A Constitution you have agreed to uphold. The President must provide the nation with milestones and timelines to serve as a guide for continued action and demonstration of the government's commitment. Just to tell us that a committee has been formed, it's not adequate. We need a lot of transparency. We need a lot of details so that, as the Constitution says, sovereignty resides with the people. We then, again, as the Constitution says, you, the media, are supposed to hold the government to the account of the people. You can take these milestones and timelines to be able to support government itself, ensure that these milestones that are given are kept. The President, in operationalizing the KPIs he has given to all MCEs and DCEs in Galamsey endemic areas, should dismiss any MCE or DCE who has Galamsey still happening in their district or in the municipality for incompetence. They should be investigated for complicity in these environmental crimes. The same should apply to the police and the National Investigative Bureau commanders in this district and municipalities. If they are still in there representing the president and Galamsey is still happening and we've not heard them screaming out loud for support, then they are either incompetent or complicit or both.
Now, whilst welcoming the establishment of the Natural Resources and Environmental Security Agency, the coalition warned that without adequate funding and logistics, the initiative will become another mirage.
We are beyond the last resort. And His Excellency, Mr. President, please, you should immediately declare a state of emergency. And again, we are very clear about it, in parts of the country, not in all of the country, not in the entire district, but in parts of the country that are required to save Ghanaians as prescribed by the Constitution. A Constitution. The establishment of NIMOS is a positive step, but the President must urgently provide it with adequate resources to address environmental destruction caused by mining, especially given the national profits from gold sales by the Gold Board. So we have two proposals for funding NIMOS. One, allocate a portion of Gold Board proceeds directly to NIMOS as a show of commitment and as for support for them to be able to do their work. And two, auction all confiscated excavators at 1/3 of their value. Use the funds to support joint enforcement of the Forestry Commission and local police. And this is what a state of emergency could give you. Because at 995, before you can auction, you would have to go to court, prosecute the case when you finish, before forfeiture can happen. But under a state of emergency in particular areas, we could then have the situation where all of these, under the state of emergency, could be dealt with. After all, in the UK, when they had the issues of the riots happening, they were able to set up courts when you are arrested within 24 hours, you are taken to court, prosecuted, and jailed. So under state of emergency, we can do the same. I'm not sure as we are more liberal a democracy than the UK.
Well, meanwhile, government is stepping up its fight against illegal mining with a new strategy, the establishment of a permanent military bases within forest reserves along major river bodies across the country. Government data shows that 44 forest reserves are currently classified as endangered, with 9 declared no zone at all. Now, speaking on the Super Morning Show early on today, Government Communications Minister Felix Kwatchiofosu said the move is aimed at securing reclaimed sites and preventing illegal miners from returning once operations are completed.
To all these measures to curb Galamsey, there's also the Responsible Community Mining Project, which essentially hands over some disused mines by lawful mining companies to the youth so that they can engage in responsible mining that is monitored, that does not affect the environment, and be able to make money decently as opposed to going into this dangerous work of Galamsey. So I think that we all need to establish, we need to be clear that even as we take steps to fight it, those who are engaged in it still find reason to go back. And some time ago I said that the Galamsey fight has to be an eternal fight. It was taken out of context to mean that we will never win it. But we have to maintain eternal vigilance. That is why, as part of the efforts going forward, all those places that have been reclaimed, the soldiers and the security forces won't leave. They will set up permanent camps to ensure that people don't come. At least the 44 forest reserves that were endangered. And all the riverine areas of Ghana will have permanent security presence to ensure that people do not come back. And that will be rolled out in the coming days.
And government appears to be fighting this particular menace from all fronts. Now, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablaka, has also outlined his ministry's role in the fight against Galamsey, addressing the issue of foreign nationals involved in illegal mining. He announced a new directive at Ghana's embassy in Beijing, China. He says group passport processing has now been scrapped. Now, every applicant must show up in person and undergo the procedure individually.
Official China government policy to come and destroy our environment, and they have made clear anytime we have engaged with officials in Beijing, they have been supporting us to get rid of their nationals who come in. And as you do know, we have been cracking down, arresting them, prosecuting them, and we will continue with the arrests and prosecutions. I can confirm to you that as part of my recent visit to China, I went to the state where they are notorious for sending their nationals here to engage in Galamsey. I met with the governor, the city authorities, and Director Asia is here. He can confirm that in that meeting, I did not mince words at all. I really stated President Mahama's position that this cannot continue. We welcome good investors to come partner with us and transform our economy. But we will not accept you sending your nationals here to engage in Galamsey. And we made that very clear to the city authorities. What we have also done subsequently following that meeting is that we have a new policy now at our embassy in Beijing and our consulate in Guangzhou, where we no longer process group visa applications. That's the new policy. Everybody must show up for an interview, and no matter if you claim you are coming for a conference, an excursion, whatever, you must all produce yourselves individually and apply individually.
Adopted by government to fight the menace of illegal mining, but are these efforts enough to deal with what we are saddled with as a country? Now, joining me, Awula Sewa is coordinator, Eco-Conscious Citizens. In the studio, however, though, I'm privileged to have Professor Michael Ayamba, Deputy CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority, right? Prof, you're welcome, and it's good to see you.
It's a pleasure.
Let me take a quick bite from Awula Sewa. So, Awula, you heard President Mahama last week. State of emergency should be the last resort. Government is taking steps to repeal LI 2462. The foreign minister says that now they will not be granting visas to groups. Everyone coming from China must appear in person and justify why the person is seeking to go to Ghana. What do you make of these?
Afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. I mean, this is all well and good, but the reality is that as we sit here right now, we are facing a national catastrophe. We are facing a national catastrophe. So we need to act now. We need to ensure that we put an end to the catastrophe. And if we don't do that, we'll all be destroyed. So those are the fundamental things we need to do. And as you're aware, there was a press conference today where some of the steps were detailed. I know the president doesn't think he says he's reluctant to declare a state of emergency. But we are saying that unless this is done, or unless the steps that he says that he has not yet taken, the measures at his disposal are used immediately, we will lose the window of opportunity to rescue this country from the catastrophe we face. I mean, if you look at the images, I don't see any Chinese nationals here. I can see Africans here destroying their own environment. So we need to deal with what's on the ground and get rid of the environmental criminals and their equipment.
The cost to this now is evident to everybody. Ghana Water Company is seeking tariff adjustment. The reason primarily is because they are spending so much money to treat the water. And in fact, some of their water processing plants are already out of service because illegal miners have virtually taken over these places. So government is aware of the implications, the financial costs, the environmental costs, and every cost that must be discussed. Government is fully aware of this. Do you see the commitment to really get to the bottom of this? Or is just being reduced to attempts and intentions?
You see, if we are fully aware of this, we have the health costs. Kidney disease has gone up fourfold. People are getting cancer. They are deformed babies. The health cost is tremendous. For me, the health cost is even worse than the cost of tariffs going up. But again, the good thing is that Ghanaians are now waking up because it's affecting us directly. It's affecting our pockets. We don't seem to realize that our health is even more important. So what is astonishing is why the president is so reluctant to declare a targeted state of emergency. So he can take all the measures available and get rid of this canker, because the window of opportunity, as I keep on saying, is closing. We have national security problems with some of these armed persons. We don't want to descend into parts of Latin America. We have health concerns. We have peasant farmers, more than 2.5 million of them losing their livelihoods. Even our cocoa isn't safe. We have economic problems. Why are we so hesitant to declare a targeted state of emergency when in opposition we're asking the past government to declare one? And even the LI 2462 you mentioned, we're in September. It was a low-hanging fruit. Why has it taken us so long to acknowledge that this is one of the steps in the right direction?
So this
we are sort of frustrated at what is going on.
And then finally, this targeted that you speak of, so this will be restricted to the mining areas? It will be
restricted to the hotspots,
all right,
the forest reserves where the illegal miners are, or the criminal, the environmental criminals. It will be restricted to the water bodies. Most of our water bodies are polluted. We are told that over 60% of our water bodies are polluted. Water is life. I don't think we want 100% of our water bodies to be polluted before we decide to act. Let me say this, the water company is spending more and more to purify the water. But what they are using to purify it, what are the health aspects? We need the medical profession to come up and tell us what damage is it doing to our health. Yes, the water is now looking clear, but how safe is it? The fact that it's clear does not make it safe.
Right. Dawola, thank you so much for this intervention here on the program. Let me now bring in Professor Michael Ayamba from the EPA, Deputy CEO. Prof, you're welcome again. You've heard so much commentary around the issue of illegal mining. And I know that at the start of the year, your CEO undertook some site visits to some river bodies and then made some commitments. First, let's start off from the river bodies. What state are they in now, as we speak, from what you witnessed at the start of the year?
Of course, it depends on where you want to look at the situation. The Galamsey issue is evolving, it's elusive, and it's a cat and mouse game. And to the extent that if you clean two, they add another one. So consistently, we take steps forward, and then the problem evolves into another issue. So nobody is under the illusion that this is a fight that you can just go in with guns
and win,
declare state of emergency, and then it's done and dusted. So yes, we wish our river bodies could have been better. We wish that by now we would have clean waters, given the efforts we are putting in. But increasingly, the issue keeps evolving, and it's bigger than many of us are seeing. You see an increasing number of young people increasingly engaging in illegal mining that has a historical connection, that over the years many people couldn't find jobs. You have people with degrees and so on can't get a job to do, so they all found their way into illegal mining. And it's easier said than done that declare state of emergency, go there with guns and shoot it. 2-3 years ago, we would have said, okay, it's Chinese
who are doing it,
financing illegal mining, and then you had businessmen and politicians going in. Now what we are increasingly seeing is community involvement in illegal mining. Every day in my office, I get people coming to report to me, come to our community. Then the end game is, can you talk to them so that they also allow us to do some of the mining? So if we take in guns here, we are going to have a bloodbath. That is one thing I can tell you for sure. It's easy for you to sit somewhere and say, impose a state of emergency, send in the military and let them do the job. But I can tell you, everybody calling for the state of emergency,
they don't know what they are calling for.
They don't know what they are calling for, because the cost of human life there is going to be enormous, that we may not even, in the end Galamsey, we may end up having a conflict growing out of it. I can tell you that when you go and see people doing illegal mining, they are not people who are afraid of guns, who are afraid of military.
But now they are saying that let's target it. Let's look at the most endemic areas and then concentrate the state of emergency there.
You see, we have tested a number of issues. One of the things we have seen is that there's an increasing appetite for a certain degree of inclusive mining. Many of these communities want to see a situation where, if there are gold reserves in their area, there is some arrangement that allows them to share these resources with whoever is investing in there. We see that as an opportunity to find a lasting solution to illegal mining, rather than just thinking that we can stop it. I also take exceptions to the selective activism that we are seeing of late. I welcome criticism. I welcome the fact that everybody wants to put the spotlight on Galamsey. But to the extent that we are not pausing a moment to think of the implications of the proposals we are putting forward, is what is making it difficult for us to take the right step forward. It's not a state of emergency, as I've rightly indicated. We have seen how those places are. They see death. They are not afraid of death. I'm sure your media house here, you have evidence of miners confronting military, heavily armed military.
Yes, in fact, we reported on so many of these.
We reported all those. So if you see somewhere and say impose emergency, send in the guns, you are telling us that go and kill everybody. And I don't think that will even be a solution.
So, Prof, as you speak, will you say that the situation is getting dynamic by the day?
I'm saying it's fluid. That is one thing. It is not something that, okay, let me say it's a moving target. That increasingly you solve one problem, another dimension of it occurs. And one of the things I've seen is that we all know that our water bodies are the most fragile points that we want to target on. And if you listen to the Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, if you dovetail that one into what the Honorable Kujoto have said, you've seen that all these things are concerted efforts to see whether can we make incremental achievements towards solving this problem. Can we start with our water bodies? Can we ensure that places that are reclaimed don't eventually revert? Then we can have another step looking at how to eventually stop illegal mining. That will take the creation of opportunities, investment. That will take our ability to train these people to engage in sustainable mining and eventually save our forests. It is easier said than done. That's what I can say here.
Right. So, Prof, EP, what role exactly are you playing in this particular national challenge?
Of course, our mandate is to preserve the environment and to improve it. Of course, apart from being the custodians of the laws in terms of what environmental protection is about, we also are part of the whole legalization of the mining as far as gold is concerned. And our role here is, of course, first, we want to provide the education. We want, if possible, provide opportunities for people to come up with strategies to mine rightly. And then where we have to train, we can team up with government to train. So we are pursuing that mandate effectively. We also at least participate in licensing of mining. So we think that where we come in strongly is, of course, to help in legalizing where it is possible and to train where it is also possible, and to educate where we think the framework has been put in place and the groundwork has been done. People are willing to take on this expertise. So we want to play that role, and we are doing that.
And with your, consultations and site visits, what do you think is an avenue that the government can exploit to sort of start a process of, winning this fight?
I think one of the things the government is doing is to actually target the resources that go into illegal mining. And over the past weeks or so, you've seen how we are actually rolling out a strategy to stem the flow of excavators into the mining communities. I can tell you for now that it is more difficult now to bring an excavator into Ghana.
But we hear 200 every day.
Yeah,
coming into the country.
They come into the country, but it's very difficult
to clear them from
the port, and it's very difficult to even operationalize them and move them. Yeah, as I said, I've seen that selective activism, and I don't know whether it is out of malice or there are genuine mistakes where people try to misinform. The issue of, let's say, people moving excavators from the ports and putting them in the custody of the military, misinterpreted as clearing excavators in the night. And you see, these things don't help the fight against Galamsey. One thing I can tell you for sure is that it's very difficult to import and clear an excavator in Ghana now than at any point in our history. And that effort alone will eventually restrict access to the equipment needed to destroy the environment.
And this is basically for those who are bringing in excavators to destroy the environment, because other people bring excavators for very well-defined, jobs. And for such individuals, obviously they'll be caught in this web. They will therefore need to justify why the excavator is coming in. Big mining companies who go to regulations, and you can follow through with the work they are doing to ensure that they are not destroying the environment. They need excavators to work. Contractors need excavators to work. My friend Kojo Boatem, who is a farmer, needs an excavator to work on his farms. So what happens with these category of individuals?
If we are able to cut off the flow of excavators for illegal mining, then we know excavators that are in the country are supposed to be doing construction work and others. Now, if we find your excavator in illegal mining, then we have to sanction you heavily. And those who are actually engaged in illegal activities will not want to be caught in that web. And so I think it is one step in the right direction. What people also want easily discount is the efforts of the gold board to also restrict the export of gold. If we can target the movement of the gold, we can target where the money comes from and where eventually the money passes through to go back into illegal mining. So from that angle too, we are increasingly trying to tighten the nose and make it very difficult for people to export gold. I believe that in the not too distant future, we should be able to, if not all, be able to separate a significant proportion of gold derived from illegal sources and gold derived from legal mining. And this will help in a long way in trying to stop the issue and then maybe trying to prevent money from getting back to the hands that invested them in the mining in the first place. So that is where I think that we are making very significant progress. And
I'm guessing that from your analysis, the conclusion is that many of the excavators that are coming in, most of them, until this new restrictions, most of them ended up in the mining sector.
You see, let's be fair here that sometimes people just buy excavators and they rent them.
Right.
I have an excavator, you come and say you want an excavator, I give it to you. Sometimes they don't even ask what you are doing. All they want is at the end of the day, you are bringing in their hire. So we're now trying to also make people who own excavators know that if we find your excavator involved in illegal mining, not only is it going to be confiscated, you are also going to be punished and prosecuted. And that will go in a long way to reduce at least access to excavators, which is the major problem. If it is the whole cutlass and pickaxe, that can do this kind of damage that we are seeing here. But it's the excavators and then the machinery that causes the damage. And if you target the machines, target the money, and target the people, which is being done, I believe that eventually we'll make that quantum leap. And
but Prof, can this fight ever be won? And what will it take?
It can be won in the sense that if we see victory as we being able to significantly stop illegal mining, yes, from time to time you have pockets of it emerging. There are places you go to sleep, the next day there's a lot of damage, but we should be able to develop that responsiveness to move in quickly into new emerging sites and then bring situations under control and then prevent the destruction of more forests and more water bodies. I think that is where the fight against Galamsey will eventually end. That we will have built the ability to respond more quickly, to preempt the movements of these activities and stop them. For now, it's you move here, stop them, and they move into another place. And we don't have complete control over it yet, but the systems that are being put in place will eventually allow us to follow it. But I will say here again, not because I just want to follow what the president has said, but I have moved and seen some of these things, seen some of these people, and a state of emergency, no.
It's not required at this very moment.
Not any day. I believe we could have deployed it in the early days, but where it has reached, it's now community competition. It's like people are waiting that the Galamsey will get to their community and they will also make some money, make some, be able to put up some infrastructure and other things. People eagerly look up to it, and that is how dangerous it is. I agree that, yes, we are, it's a time bomb, and if we do not get ahead of it, we will face a dire situation in the future. But I believe that what is also being done is leading to some results. And let's be optimistic that we'll win this fight.
Finally, the agency issued a statement about certain actions will be taken in the coming day. If you can briefly educate on it before I let you go.
Of course, what we want to do, as I've said, is that we have always been in favor of educating. We have always been in favor of sensitizing. And we have always been in favor of legalizing where it is possible. Of course, I did mention the issue of we going back into the communities there and trying to help people come to us to get more knowledge about how to do this. Over the last week, you heard of we also having some help from Australia in terms of how to do these things rightly. Those are the issues that we want to focus on. We are working with other agencies like the Forestry Commission and the rest, in terms of trying to ensure that we save the forest, prevent the destruction of new areas, and where there is also some damage, we intensify our effort to reclaim. That is the way we want to go, and these are some of the measures that we want to take.
Right. Prof. Ayamba, thank you so much for coming through. Professor Michael Ayamba is Deputy CEO of the Environmental Protection Agency. And of course, we all are into this particular fight to bring an end to illegal mining. We'll take a short break here on the power. When we return, Rocky Dawuni will be speaking to me. Plus, we'll get to understand why a Chinese national is on the run and he's been accused of starting the fire that destroyed a warehouse at Latabio Coast. The Ghana National Fire Service, they've got some answers for us.